Welcome everyone to another Lake Lewis Jr. show. Appreciate you joining me as always. Before we get into today's program, and excited about having my guest on, Mr. DJ Bland does a great job covering the NFC South for SportsJourney.com, as well as the Washington Commanders. So we're going to get his take on this Commanders team and if Jayden Daniels, because that's the big question that's been going on all week, and myself being out at practice, we didn't see Jayden, but nevertheless, I still feel like Jayden Daniels is playing, and I actually tweeted about that I do foresee him playing in this football game, and that may not be a popular opinion. I think a lot of people want him to be cautious, and they want the team to be cautious. People still have that PTSD as far as Robert Griffin III, the knee injury that he sustained. And, you know, I keep trying to tell people that this one's different. This is a little bit of a different type of injury, of course, but more importantly, it's a different makeup as far as the Commanders. And I think that their ownership group, led by Josh Harris and Mitch Rales and Magic Johnson, they're not going to put the young man out at harm's way if he's not ready. And I also think Adam Peters and Dan Quinn understand that he's their future. He's their current, present, and future. But, you know, competitors want to play. And I know that this kid wants to play against Caleb Williams. You know, these were the 1 and 2nd pick in the draft from last year. And I think that, you know, right now they're in the middle of a kind of a rookie of the year race. You know, I think Jayden's the clear front runner and probably will win it because of his fast start. But Caleb Williams has been coming on strong over the past few weeks. And matter of fact, since week 4, he hasn't thrown an interception. Has had 7 touchdown passes. So he's coming into form as well. So this, you know, has the makings of one of those matchups and one of those great games. And, you know, I think overall, when you look at the body of work of both these teams, it'll be really interesting because, you know, Chicago's offense comes in scoring 24 points a game, nearly 25, and Washington comes in scoring nearly 30 points a game. So, you know, these are two offenses that have found the end zone. Washington in particular has definitely found the end zone. And then if you look at the passing yards, Washington at 220 a game, the Bears at 196 a game. Rushing yards, Washington 157 and the Bears at 104. So to me, that's going to be the biggest part of this football game to me. It's going to be, what can Washington's defense do against Chicago's offense? And, you know, because we know on the other side of the ball, we know what the Bears are going to do defensively. The Bears are going to come at Washington. They're going to bring a lot of pressure. That's what they do. And that's, you know, Eberflus, their coach. You know, he's a defensive-minded guy. So he's going to be coming at the Commanders. And if you look here, if you look at the defensive rankings, Chicago, you know, is 5th in points scored or points allowed, and Washington's 22nd. So, you know, you look at these numbers, Chicago 6 against the pass, Washington 19, Chicago 11th against the run, Washington 21. So to me, this is where the game comes down to. It's going to come down to the defensive side of the football for the Commanders. If they can hold Caleb Williams at bay and keep him from continuing his tear that he's been on, because, you know, since week 4, Caleb Williams has 7 touchdown passes with 0 interceptions. So he's getting the job done. He's really come into form and quietly kind of put himself back in the rookie race. And I think if Jayden plays and wins this football game, it's over. It's his trophy. They'll probably engrave his name, sketch his name into that trophy, you know, before week 9 even gets to us. So, you know, this game has a lot riding on it. So remember, coming up when we come back from break, I'm going to have DJ Bland on helping me break down the game this weekend. And also we'll get some NFC South love from him as well. He covers the Falcons and the Saints as well. So, as always, if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Lake Lewis Jr. on all social media. And then, of course, if you want to subscribe to this show, you can do it via YouTube, where the show is on there. Or you can actually subscribe to it via Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name the platform, and the show is on there. And greatly appreciate all the well wishes and all the support that it's been getting, and it's picking up some steam. So we're going to keep this thing going along. So when we come back, we'll have DJ on with myself right here on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Welcome back, everyone, to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. And as we mentioned before, we're going to bring in our good friend and the person who does a great job on sportsjourney.com breaking down the NFC South, sometimes the Commanders, and he's also big NHRA racing expert guru. So let's bring him on now, Mr. DJ Bland. What's going on, DJ?
What's up, man? It's another great weekend for some football, brother. It's gonna be fun.
Exactly. And I wanted to get you on and fire this thing up before Sunday's game. Listen, big time football game here in DC. I'll be there. If you're a fan and you're not going to be there, shame on you. You definitely want to try to be to this one because
Definitely.
all the drama of a soap opera is being able to play out right in front of us, and we won't know as far as the outcome of this soap opera until tomorrow at 4:25. And I say that because DJ, superstar, rookie phenom, Jayden Daniels, obviously sustained an injury last week against the Panthers, rib injury. And all week long at practice, we didn't see him out there. But you and I talked off the record, and we both knew that that was done intentionally to keep us from having something to talk about. So I want to
Yeah.
get your thoughts on Jayden, and if you feel like he has a legit chance to play against the Bears on Sunday.
Yeah, I said it come Sunday afternoon. We had our post game live show here at Sports Journey. I said it. There's no doubt he was playing. I figured they would take it and string this along. Mariota played so well that they were going to string this along, make the Bears prepare for two quarterbacks, and then we drop it on them on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon when it's time to hit the field. They'll know who's going to start. And I said it when he came out and waved at the crowd. He was smiling, standing on the sidelines, having a good time. You know, he was throwing both arms up when Mariota scored. There's no doubt about that he's going to play. This is all a strategy. Something that people here in Washington haven't seen before. Other teams have been doing this for years. Belichick has been one of those guys that have been the master of doing these types of things, and we're
And
seeing it play out
manipulating
before our eyes here.
and manipulating the injury report as well.
Exactly. Yep.
It's
This is all a
gamesmanship.
ruse, man. Yes.
So when you look at Jayden though, let's just look at this from two sides. Our side is he's a competitor, you play. If like they say, if you can walk on it, if you can stand on it, if you can move on it, you play. That's just because we're old school. However,
Right.
newer generation, more technology driven and analytics and things like that, if he can't hurt himself anymore, if it's a rib injury, which they really haven't said what it is, we're all speculating, but we're kind of leaning towards bruised ribs or some cartilage. But I think if it was cartilage, he'd definitely be ruled out. So we're talking about some bruised ribs here. You can't really injure bruised ribs any more than what they already are. It can become more painful, of course, and kind of flare it up. But as far as like tearing and ripping, nothing more can happen. With that known, do you feel like it's a risk to play him and put a flap jacket on him or something like that?
No, I don't feel like it's any risk. There's no breakage. There's no cartilage issues. Just a bruise. Like you can play through that all day long. You don't have to worry about, uh, injuring that any further. It's just like having a bruise anywhere else. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Whether it's your leg, arm, whatever. It's all the same. So I don't feel like there's going to be any issue of making things worse at all.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would probably say, from my brief medical background was, just from the twisting and contortion and stuff like that, that's where the pain is for sure. And it hurts. I've
Right.
happened to
Right.
me for broken ribs actually, and you can't breathe, you can't cough, you can't laugh, can't do anything, you hardly can eat. Um, But to see him up and in front of us yesterday, you know, talking, and the one thing that I did notice several times was he would look wherever he was talking, he turned his body, he turned his head. I'm telling you, if you have broken ribs or a really bad car, you can't even do that. So to me,
Exactly. You're not doing that.
right. So to me, it just makes me really feel like, again, as you said, as I've said as well, this is all part of the gamesmanship that, yeah, fans in Washington haven't seen this in modern football, so to speak, over the last, 3 decades, because it was never part of their
Yeah.
program, and they just weren't doing things the way other people did. Now, I remember Mike Shanahan used to, he was one of the first coaches that made us stop filming. I'm sure you remember that. We couldn't film at practice.
Yes.
Hardly could even
Yep.
film drills. He didn't want any competitive advantage given out. And I used to always argue it's not a competitive advantage if you still don't allow us to do it. And then we see what's happening on Sundays. You getting pushed around.
Facts.
So exactly. Sometimes
Yep.
you got to line up and go for it. So with all this said, Washington will come into the game as a underdog. And I said last week with our good friend Felix Trammell from Fox Sports Radio after the Panther beat down that I'm not sure if they're going to be underdogs going forward in too many games. Well, they're underdogs in this one because of the uncertainty of Jayden Daniels. Are you
Yeah.
confident that what you saw from Marcus Mariota last week, because he kind of looks like he's running that Oregon offense with Cliff Kingsbury that he had great success in college, winning the Heisman Trophy himself? Are you confident that they still have enough to beat Chicago if Jayden Daniels doesn't play? I'm thinking
Man,
about it. It's tough. I know it
you
is.
can't you can't deny what Mariota did against the Panthers. Really, I give Cliff Kingsbury a lot of credit too, because I mean, how many times do you see offensive coordinators have two guys like this that are very well prepared and well versed in an offense? And I think it proved why they brought him in here. That way, you don't have this big switch over and a guy like, let's just use Jeff Driscoll as a a measuring there. He's a totally different style from both of those guys. So now you have to kind of reconstruct a different style of an offense because I mean everybody knows that Driscoll doesn't have any wheels and really is no threat. So uh, I think they would have a shot. I'm not sure if they win though. I think they could keep it close. I'm not sure if they win, and my reasoning on that is this defense for the Bears is a lot different and a lot more skilled than the defense that they saw against the Carolina Panthers. Now, their
You think?
offensive line is very porous over there, and that doesn't help. So, would it be a problem if the Washington defense the Carolina Panthers field early and often, and then their defense being out there for a long period of time, absolutely that has an effect. But that those are ifs and buts. So calling it like we see it, I would say it would be a close loss if Mariota plays.
Okay, and that's fair, and I'm glad full honesty, full disclosure, because, sometimes when you cover a team, it's hard for you to say, no, they're not going to win. I've said it myself. I just don't know how much they would have, and I think they're a really good football team.
Mm-hmm.
And but before anyone says, "Oh, well, you're basically saying they're no good without Jayden," no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they have a chance. I don't see it happening if
Right.
Jayden doesn't play, and that's because Jayden is so good. I mean, this team has potentially, down in the immediate future, a top five quarterback. I mean, he's playing like a top five quarterback right now, but hard for us to say that when he's, not even halfway through his rookie season. Uh,
Right.
but when you have that kind of talent on the field at the most important position in football, you're going to win football games. But it's similar to if a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen, one of these upper echelon elite quarterbacks, which I do believe Jayden has the potential to be, and he's ascending faster than some think. But if those guys don't play on Sunday, you don't know what you're going to get from those teams, despite the talent all around in the other positions. And I think that that's where Washington will find themselves Sunday if Jayden doesn't play. Now, from a theater standpoint, it could be great because you saw what Mariota did coming in the game last week. But I want to preface this, and this isn't to knock Marcus, great dude, talk to him all the time in the locker room, class act. Carolina didn't game plan for that. So
Right.
when Jayden came out, Marcus came in and it was a little rusty, little off, a little, there. But once he got going and Cliff started calling plays out of that bag, that deep bag of his, Carolina wasn't prepared for it. This is different.
No.
Chicago, one of the reasons why I do think you haven't heard about Jayden, and let's just say Jayden isn't going to play, and everyone in the building knows that. Well, you, by not saying he's not playing, you couldn't put all your time and attention on Marcus. And it's
Right.
just beautiful how they're doing this. One way or another, whoever's under center hasn't been fully prepped for, even if it's Jayden, because you're not saying he's playing. You still have to look at what Marcus did last week. So it's just beautiful
Yep.
gamesmanship. And for my money, DJ, I don't, if you ask me a score, if it's Marcus, I'm just going to say it'll be a close football game. If Jayden plays and he's healthy, I don't think it's going to be a close football game. So I'll leave it at that.
I don't either. I don't either. I don't either. I think shoot, if Marcus plays, I think you see, 27-24 type of ball game. Maybe it's a 24-17 type of ball game. You know what I mean? They lose a close one. If Jayden plays, I'm looking at 35 plus, and the Bears probably have about 17 points at the most.
So you're thinking that Washington's offense, if Jayden plays, continues to just hum along like they've been doing, even though the Bears defense is widely regarded as one of the top, defenses in the league. I will say this. They played a Texans team that they lost to. The Texans aren't necessarily putting up 40 on people. They beat you up on defense as well. Um,
No,
but you look at the
exactly.
4 wins that they've had, Chicago, we're talking about, those 4 wins have been against teams with a combined 4 wins. They're 4-20 as far as the 4 teams that they beat this year.
Right.
Does that say a lot about Chicago's defense, or more so about how bad and atrocious the teams they beat were? Or is it just a little bit of combination of both?
It's a combination of both. I mean, you got to beat the teams that are in front of you,
Mhm.
and they did that. I think what the issue is here is they haven't faced a quarterback like Jayden yet, and sure they practice against Caleb Williams, but Caleb is just a different type of quarterback. Yes, he's a guy who can run, but
He's
in a lot of
nimble of
cases
foot.
yes, he's no Jayden though,
Right,
and
exactly.
um, the way Cliff Kingsbury does a good job of mixing things up. Um, you hardly ever see the same play twice in any football game from game to game. And
Mhm.
I think that gives them an advantage with Mariota. I don't think they really dug that far into the bag for Mariota for him to have success. I mean, they kept going with the stuff. If it was working, unlike what we've seen in the past from offensive coordinators, if it was working, they're sticking with it until you stop it. And they'll throw a little this and a little bit of that, little seasoning here, a little seasoning there to keep you off kilter. But they're going to do what they have to do offensively with what's working, and they're not going to dig too deep to make that happen unless you make them do that. And I think that those two things are going to make it very difficult for this defense. On top of the fact that they won't have the luxury of crowd help. Uh, they will be on the road here, and the Commanders fans have shown up and showed out. There ain't been too many, other than behind the benches of the opposing team. The folks ain't coming in and taking the stadium over at the moment.
Oh
So
no, no, not even
uh,
close. And if Chicago,
there's a lot of disadvantages here. So I think they're in a good spot. And I do, yeah, great defense from them, but they haven't faced the likes of a Daniels yet. And then you talk about B Rob, you talk about, Austin Eckler, McNichols involved in this as well. This is offense that has the ability to run the ball and run it hard and strong right down the middle and soften you up a little bit. And then they hit you with stuff off the edge with Jayden. They hit you with stuff uh, uh, you know, passes out in the flats, out, just all kinds of just creative offense that really keeps defenses off balance.
folks right now talking with our NFC South reporter from sportsjourney.com, DJ Bland. Has covered the Commanders and formerly, the Redskins for years. So, before we move on and get into big matchup in your NFC South this weekend, for all the marbles almost, just real quick
Yeah.
as far as the Commanders, where do you see them right now? Like, how far along in this first year recalibration are they? Are they a surefire playoff team, or are they a potential playoff team, in your opinion?
I think they're a surefire playoff team.
Okay.
The progression I see on defense has been tremendous. We talked about it earlier in the first couple weeks of the season. Really didn't see them arriving with violence on defense. Seemed like a lot of guys were thinking a little bit, maybe. Tackling wasn't that great. Now you see on kind of in these last three games, and we saw flashes of the defense play with in these last three games. You see the progression in this defense, how they're using Frankie Lou. I do from Jonathan Allen being out because you saw a few things different last week up front. And that front seven keeps continuing to progress and play in the way that they have been. Now you don't have to really worry too much about your back end because they're not covering nearly as long. Do I think they need to go and get a corner possibly before the trade deadline if they can? Absolutely. But like I said, you don't need great corners if you have a front seven that's creating havoc, getting the quarterback off of his, shortening the amount of time that he has to allow for the play to develop and make a decision quickly.
All right. So we got about, what, 3 minutes left here. So we're going to move on over to your domain, which is the NFC South. And, Atlanta, Tampa, clearly are the cream of the crop in the division. The Saints, look like they could have been something early in the season, and the wheels have kind of fallen apart for the Saints. Do you feel like this is a two-team race in the NFC South, and today, the winner of this really has a leg up on who's going to win the division?
Yeah, it's a two-team race. Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of took a shot here with Evans being out. I think uh, Godwin is gone for the season, fortunately, with that dislocated ankle.
Mhm.
I think that really hurts their chances of winning this division, and it's the Falcons' division to lose. Listen, I think if people watch these two teams, they are very much alike, and we saw that with Tampa against the Ravens. They have the tendency in games to show up, and they look like world beaters begin, and they start making these really timely mistakes, the lapses in execution. Those things these two teams suffer badly from, and if they can get rid of that little disease and that little sickness and kind of get well from that here going forward, I think you'll see a team that is very much capable of dominating most teams. It's just you got to be very sound in your technique and not have these mental lapses that create personal penalties and turnovers that can stifle your offense and cause you to lose the teams that you had no business losing to. Because I don't believe the Seahawks were better than the Falcons. I believe the Falcons, time and time again, pulled out the gun and shot themselves in the foot.
All right. So who do you feel who are you taking to win that division ultimately?
The Falcons.
Okay.
Um, I said it when they hired Kirk. I thought that was an excellent hire. I believe in Raheem Morris and what he does and how he goes about his business. He's learned from some of the best in the business. Long, really, he should have been had a head coaching job. This is the right place at the right time, and they have weapons. I thought they're not nearly as bad as people thought they were. When your offense is turning the ball over in the red zone, or in you're giving the ball to your opponent, basically almost in the red zone at times, putting your defense in bad spots and then asking them to bail you out consistently is very hard to do. And that's what happened last. I think this defense is very, very well capable of handling its business. And as long as the offense continues to do what it does by the run game, what Kirk likes to do out of play action, getting the ball deep, and with those nice crossing routes to Mooney and guys like Kyle Pitts, I think they definitely have an opportunity to win this division and win it with ease.
All right, folks. Well, look, DJ, good stuff as always. Wanted to get you on here. We'll know come Monday, next time we get back together, we'll know how this NFC East matchup, will be shaping up as far as Washington going up against the Bears, and we'll see how the NFC East is shaping up because the Cowboys have a tough game against the 49ers. The Eagles have the Bengals in Cincinnati. Doesn't matter who the Giants have.
Yep.
They're not going to be in contention for anything. And then, of course, your NFC South, see how the Falcons and Bucks game turn out too. So the NFL is starting to shape up now. It's for all the fans that were saying it's too early to think about this being good or this team over here being good. No, it's not. When you're at the halfway mark, you're kind of starting to see you're a racing expert. It's kind of like in racing, by the halfway mark of a race, you're starting to see the separation of who's real and who's not. So we're going to have a lot of storylines to talk about, and you'll be back with me next week to go over that. So real quick, before we get out of here, let everyone know what you got coming up on the Not Bland podcast and where they can find your work.
Well, you can find all the work at the Not Bland Show on YouTube. You can find me at Not Bland 21 on everything. Also, you can find a lot of our work with the NFC South right on sportsjourney.com. And this week, we're going to be talking about the up-and-coming fifth race of the NHRA playoffs, getting right close down to the championship. And this thing's likely to go down to the wire to Pomona in the sixth playoff race. And on Monday, we'll be talking some NFL, kind of looking at what's going on here coming up and what we saw from the past weekend and who's really making some moves and making some play to say, hey, we want to be a part of this playoff race and we want to have an opportunity to contend for a Super Bowl.
All right, folks, as always, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll have our final segment of today's podcast right here on the Lake Lewis Show. Appreciate you, DJ, for coming on. We'll see you next week. Good segment with DJ. I appreciate him coming on, breaking down the Washington Commanders, Jayden Daniels situation, and also talking about the NFC South, where he says the Atlanta Falcons will win the NFC South. So we're going to hold him to that, as I do everyone. But good stuff from DJ there. Remember, you can follow him at Not Bland, on all social media platforms. So it's the Not Bland Show. Make sure you subscribe to that show. It's a really good one. So, folks, when we come back next week, we'll know how the Washington Commanders fared against the Chicago Bears. I think it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be right up till 4 o'clock before you find out if Jayden Daniels is going to play. I'm still holding to my prediction that I do think the young man is going to give it a go and he's going to try to play. But, could be wrong. And if it's for the safety of him and this football team, then yeah, don't play him. But I think the competitive nature of the kid and the fact that it's Caleb Williams on the other side, and it's a football game that has playoff ramifications because the Bears at 4-2 are right in the thick of things too, although they haven't played the meat of their schedule yet. That's coming. So we'll find out a little bit more about the Bears, I think more so than Washington over the next few weeks. The NFC East doesn't look as daunting as we thought it would be before the season started. The Cowboys are still there and the Eagles are still there. So it's not over by any stretch of the imagination. And Washington hasn't proven this over a full year's time that they can be good and this consistent. It looks like they're on that trajectory for sure. But Jayden Daniels will have a lot to say as far as how far this football team goes. So once again, appreciate you joining me today, and I'll see you next week. Take care.